Some of you will recognize this controller. This is the Tails Crush Defender. This is using TMR sticks by K Silver. The polling rate for the Crush series in its entirety was 125 Hz, give or take, but it was way below 1000 Hz. Using the purple dongle that Tails have been shipping with most of their controllers for a while now. So this is actually capable of 1000 Hz, but it was just never enabled in the firmware. And I have some good news. Tails have now released, or in beta testing, which I've been testing and giving them some feedback via, 1000 Hz update to the dongle. And that has enabled full 1000 Hz with TMR sticks. Now, it will apply to previous customers of Crush with the same dongle as well, from what I understand. And the update will roll out publicly in actually, there's no date for it yet, but it will be very soon. There's a few more rounds of testing ongoing and some additional feedback. And once that's done, they'll release it. The Crush Defender, the shipments that have been sent out as of this month, customers that will be receiving theirs soon will have the firmware already up to date on it, so you won't need to do anything. Previous buyers who already have the Crush Defender, you will be able to simply run the utility on Windows and update the firmware on the dongle. And as long as your controller is up to date as well, then you will be able to make use of it. Now, the way it works is slightly different. The switch, which takes you between switch mode and X input mode on the back of the Crush, is utilized for 1000 Hz. So when it's in the S position, it is 1000 Hz, and it's seen in Windows as an X input controller. When it's in the X position, it is in 125 Hz mode, so, and also in X input. I believe this is for compatibility issues. If there's a platform that you're using it on and it only works with 125 Hz, or there's a game which for some reason doesn't work with 1000 Hz, you can just flick the switch to X and it will go back to 125 Hz, which is the previous default. When you switch to S mode for the first time, you do need to repair it back to the dongle. So the firmware. So let's get up to doing some measurements and just show you exactly what that's about. So I'm just going to turn it on. And we are connected. So I'm going to use Joystick Tester first. This is by John Punch on Reddit. And we are going to connect to, not that one, but this one. And we'll just run through the test. So I'm just going to wiggle the left stick. And you can see they're already 945 Hertz, 9.9 accuracy. And we've got enough data there to confirm that we are at 1000 Hz. And the smoothness of the cursor as well, it's smoother. It's obviously tracking more points than it was at 125 Hz, and this is noticeable in game as well. So even though it was very good at 125 Hz, I praised it and I reviewed it well as well at 125 Hz, it's even better now at 1000 Hz. Battery life wise, there is a bit of a dip in battery life, but I was getting about 8 to 12 hours solid non-stop with the lights on as well before, and it's about 6 to 8 hours now, I'd say. It's not a huge amount less, but then again it's USB-C, so when I'm not using it, it's plugged in, just topping up anyway, so it's not a huge issue. And I will be comparing to the GameSir Tarantula Pro as well. This also gets about 8 to 12 hours with the lights on at 1000 Hz. This is fixed at 1000 Hz anyway, so you can't really change that. And I've also got the Asturo 2 Pro Plus, which is using Beitong's Nearlink connections system. This is 2000 Hz, so I'll also do a few tests for this because there's some interesting differences between all of these. Both of these controllers are TMR sticks. This is Hall effect, so there's a bit of a difference there. And in terms of what filtering they use in raw mode versus circular mode for the sticks is very different as well. Beitong's, you can only change that with their game assistant software. I haven't installed the software or ran it even. They only provide a zip file, and the zip file flags up in antivirus, so I'm not gonna mess around with that. Not until Beitong software is on the Microsoft Store or the Android Store or something like that, then I can customize it properly. But by default, 2000 Hz, filtered sticks, filtered circles. Yeah, not my preference, to be honest with you. But yeah, back to the PB Tails. So we've done joystick tester already. We're now going to do stick analyzer. Now this is pretty good because it shows you the polling points and it shows you how clean the polling is as you move the stick based on the instructions provided. So let's just do that. And we're going to do the left stick. And we're just going to follow this. And the idea is to track it. It doesn't matter if it's not perfectly smooth, but just following it along really. And you can see there it was there's a lot of tremors in there because my thumb did move, and I am recording at the same time as well with the other hand, but you can see it's an authentic plot and there's natural movements in the line. All of the thumb movements are being tracked in that line. So that is what I'd call an honest measurement. And you can see there we've got 2,713 or 18 program points and 974 analog points. Now those analog points are registered because there's quite a lot of tremors there. So if I rerun it again, let's try and get it a bit smoother. And we'll do the left stick again. And let's just do the same again. I'm going to try and be as smooth as possible this time. Okay, we're a lot smoother now. So you can see again, it's tracked all of the movements of the stick as my thumb naturally wiggled and moved, so that's good. If it was a perfectly flat line or a smooth line, that indicates there's filtering being applied to smooth out the movement, which is not what you want to see, because that will then mean some finite details and finite movements in your game, whether it's the camera or aiming, may not be as precise as they could have been. And then the plot points here again, 1917 with 1656. So high four figures, which is good, which is what we want to see. So we'll just disconnect this one and we'll fire up the Tarantula Pro. Okay. So again, this is 1000 Hertz only by default, and you can't really change the polling rate. So it is 1000 Hertz, both wide and wireless. And the same goes for the Crush Defender now as well. So it's 1000 Hertz by wide anyway. And now we have 1000 Hertz by wireless via the dongle. So let's do this on the Crush Tarantula Pro. And we're just going to remove the left stick and we'll track it. Okay, so that was 1000 Hertz, and you saw that I did wiggle the stick a little bit at the start. I kind of missed the mark there, but look at how smooth and flat that line is. This is in raw mode for the stick as well, so I haven't got the fake circles enabled. The Tails Defender, you can't actually turn off this fake circle. It doesn't actually use fake circles by default. It is using the square raw input, which is what it's also known as. So that you are getting the most honest stick movement and stick response from Tails. Whereas on the game set, even on raw mode, you are getting a lot of filtering there still. It's less filtering than when the fake circle mode is enabled, because on that mode, both lines, both analog and program points, are on top of each other. Whereas now you can see the analog line is set apart slightly to the program line. So again, this indicates some filtering is being applied there, which is not what you want to see. And the points registered is also less than 900. So this is consistent. It's never been over 900. 5% tremor, so there's not that much tremoring going on there because it's been filtered out. I would have expected to see similar kind of waviness in the line to just show those natural thumb movements. So yeah, this is something that GameSir can fix in a firmware update. Whether they do or not remains to be seen. It's only been out for a week officially, so we'll just have to wait a month or two to see what GameSir do. Hopefully take feedback on board from my review and others' reviews, and we see some good results. But yeah, as with most things, this is new tech. And this is the first TMR controller by GameSir, so no doubt they'll take feedback on board. And just like PB Tails, who have been really reactive to my feedback and others' feedbacks as well, they've steadily been updating the controller, and now we've got 1000 Hertz. And yeah, who knows what else they're working on. So I'll be able to give some info on that in due course, I guess, as more information is shared. We're gonna now disconnect the Tarantula Pro. I'll just turn it off. And what I'm going to do is connect up the Asura 2 Pro. So this one is 2000 Hertz. So that's plugged in now. We'll turn it on. So this is 2000 Hertz, and as I said, I have not installed the software because I don't really, it's not that I don't trust Beitong, I just cautious about running random EXEs from zip files downloaded without going through official store channels. And we'll do the same again. Now, as you can see, this is registering less filtering than the GameSir Tarantula Pro, and it is actually very good from what I can see there. And we're also registering way more program points and analog points, but there is still filtering being applied. So I think the fact that it's 2000 Hertz, that the polling rate is actually helping detect these movements. But there is some processing or filtering being applied because there's 0.0% tremors and the analog points and program points align perfectly, which is unusual. So this indicates there is maybe not so much in the way of filtering being applied as evidenced by the line, but there is processing going on here. Now 2000 Hertz is the overclocked mode on this controller, and Beitong even say that on their website. I would want to try it on 1000 Hertz. It is 2000 Hertz by default, but I do want to try it on 1000 Hertz, but I don't want to install their or run their software, again, for those previously mentioned reasons. So I guess I won't know whether this is because of the overclock mode, having all that processing being applied, which is skewing that result, but not actually the line itself, because there's not that much filtering being applied to the stick movement. But one thing you can tell that there is processing being applied, or some kind of filtering anyway, is if I just exit out of here and go back to Stick Analyzer. And this applies to most Hall Effect sticks as well. And we'll just turn on the, actually no, we won't turn that on. We're on the left stick. So 2000 Hertz, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap. So pull it back and snap it back. And just keep an eye on the cursor. There is a bit of a delay. I don't know if that's going to show on the video, but as I snap it back, there is a slight delay, which I can see because of the Hall Effect latency. So there is some processing going on there, which you can't turn off, or maybe you can in the software, but again, I'll never know. It doesn't bounce back as quick as both the Tarantula Pro and the TMR on the PB Tails. So let's just do that. Let's go back and turn on the Tarantula Pro and show you that. Okay, so back on the Tarantula. And again, just watch the stick. Try and do this with one hand. It is just instantly quicker. Even just a quick pull down like that, it's quick. And I'll just do the same again with the Defender. Okay, so we're now connected back up to the Defender. And as you can see, it's just instant compared to the Hall effect. Now there is a bit more bounce back of the stick as it slaps back, because these are weighted metal sticks, and because of that mass being moved, there is a bit of bounce back, but that's fine. You're never going to do that in games anyway. But as a means of testing, you can just test out the response time of those sticks to quick movements. So yeah, Hall effect, TMR sticks, sorry, are the future for controllers. I do hope that GameSir do update the firmware and give better natural movement without that processing or filtering or whatever is being applied to the raw input on there. But yeah, that's 1000 Hertz on the Defender, which is really good. So this is still one of my go-to controllers. It doesn't have any additional bells and whistles like paddles or custom remappable buttons or anything like that. To be honest, as a basic controller, it doesn't really need to. It does everything it needs to do really well. Performance of the sticks, very natural. It feels like you're moving a mouse cursor. It's that quick on a gaming mouse. The only thing I don't like are the D-pads on these Crush controllers. I have had a previous Crush before as well, the Ghost version, and it was the same. So it's usable, but it's not perfect. I've said that before. I wish it was a micro switch D-pad, and I wish it also had a fenced off directions. So what I mean by that is when you hold, say, left here and wiggle stick up and down, you will activate up and down D-pad buttons as well. If it's fenced off, each direction is fenced off, so you can click a button and wiggling it like that won't activate any of the other directions. But you can still easily access diagonal by hitting diagonal, or when you're doing special moves on fighting games and so on. So yeah, I kind of hope they do that in their next controller. I have fed that information back to them, so we'll see what happens. Who knows, they might have some new stuff on the horizon as well. But yeah, that's 1000 Hertz. 1000 Hertz is now the de facto standard by the looks of it on most controllers, with a few coming in at 2000 Hertz. But some work needs to be done to improve the response and the processing and or filtering that's applied to them. But otherwise, yeah, the future is pretty bright with TMR and now 1000 Hertz.